Why don't we go ahead and get started, JR?
Yeah, surely can. If you like to greet everybody, then I'll roll in my
Yep,
presentation.
will do. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We're excited about the launch of our SizeUp application. And as an economic developer, we kind of focus on usually on four areas in our programs. We focus on new business attraction. We focus on business retention and expansion. We focus on startups, and then we have another category we call capacity building and placemaking. And one of the things that became really apparent during COVID was that our normal uh, business expansion retention programs, where we would go and visit a business each month or several businesses each month, it became almost impossible to do that during COVID. And Summit County has approximately 3,600 payroll business establishments, and 65% of that of those payroll business establishments are small business between 1 and 9 persons. And so with an office of two, with Maddie and I, then it's very difficult to get out and visit that many businesses when there's two of you, and that's really the heart of your program. And so had been looking for a technology solution where we could reach out to more people and connect them and provide resources to our existing industry and to potential startups and increase our capacity building. And so, in as part of our research, we looked around, we examined a variety of tools, and the thing that sort of stood out about the SizeUp tool was that it was a do-it-yourself application. That in an age to where people like to do their own research, if you go to a small business development center, then one of the very first things they'll tell a business that's thinking about starting is you need a business plan. And there's all this information they want you to plug into a business plan. And then the applicant, a lot of times, or the person that's interested in doing this is like, well, where do I find that information? And so SizeUp kind of has what I would call 3 to 4 areas of focus. The first one is, it gives a company the ability, an existing company, to ask the question, how am I doing? And it benchmarks that particular company against industry competitors, both locally and nationally. And then the second thing that SizeUp does, and I think this is really a great tool that's missing from a lot of other applications, is that it helps businesses find customers and suppliers and to better understand that competitor environment. And then maybe the third one, which would be the most important to like some of our rural partners, where there's a lot of distances between people, is that it can really help them target their advertising. And so, you know, we feel like this type of tool and bringing the demographic analysis forward as well is something that can help all of our existing companies. And so, with that, I would like to turn the time over for training to Mr. J.R. Charles, who is the Customer Success Manager for SizeUp, and he's been extremely helpful to us in helping to launch this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate it. And hello, everybody. As Jeff says, my name is J.R. Charles, and I'll be giving the training demonstration for SizeUp. So I'll share my screen here. And pardon me, I'm not a Teams person. I'm a Zoom person, so maybe a little strange to get shared, but hopefully everybody can see my screen now. Shout me down if you can't. Okay, very, very good. All right, move this out of the way. There we go. All right, so let's set the stage for why it's important that small businesses have access to this intelligence here. So as Jeff mentioned, small businesses are important and they are valuable. They create more jobs than big businesses. And right now, we're in an entrepreneurship boom where new businesses are starting at a faster rate than we've seen in recent history. And we all know that spending money right there in town with locally owned businesses creates a higher economic impact on the local economy because more money stays there in the community. So if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, you may be excellent at your craft. You may be a great chef, great designer, great accountant. You may have worked at a company for years and you may actually know more than the owner of the company, right? But if you're starting off on your own, being good at producing a product or delivering a service, it's not the same thing as being good at running a company. You need help, you need insights. And that planning and starting a business, that's where we need to reduce the failure rate for people who are good at what they do, but not good at running a business. So we've all heard that statistic before, that 50% of businesses fail within 5 years. That's true, but why is that? Well, some businesses die a natural death because they provide a bad product or a bad service. But what data from Entrepreneur Magazine and Investopedia explains is that many businesses die early because of a lack of preparation. That's something that can be improved upon. And you're going to see how getting access to information will make small business owners better prepared to compete in today's economy. So, speaking of today's economy, it's an information economy. Businesses without access to information are at a greater risk of poor performance or even outright failure. Big corporations have the money to hire consultants. They have internal analysts, but small businesses can't afford to do that. And that leaves them at a big disadvantage. But you're going to see how SizeUp Summit is leveling the playing field for those small businesses by providing the same or similar data insights that those bigger businesses have access to. This data would normally cost thousands of dollars, but thanks to the investment by Jeff and his team at the county, they're making it available to the community for free. You're also going to have access to over 100 topics about business performance and business improvement on demand from your home, from your workplace, whenever and where it's convenient for the small business owner. And we're going to see how this program ultimately is designed to get more customers in the door and put more money in the cash registers so those businesses can thrive. What I'm going to show you today has been well recognized by several leading experts. This has been used by the U.S. Small Business Administration. Executives from Google, Facebook, Salesforce.com, and others gave it a award, a first place award, actually, for the best business app. And it's been featured in many of the top business media outlets. And so I say all that to say is that not all businesses have access to this caliber of support. But again, thanks to Summit County's Economic Development Team, this is going to be made available to small businesses at no cost to help them succeed. So with the stage set, now I will go into our demonstration. And so you can access SizeUp very easily from the county's website. All you have to do is go to the Economic Development Department. I'll just give a quick little demo how to get there. So Economic Development Department, they have all of these different resources, but they've made it very easy to find it here on the menu on the side, Small Business Insights, and then it loads up right onto the browser. Okay. Now, I'm going to switch over to a larger version just to make it a little easier to see on your screen, but same qualities, same capabilities. You can use the county website to do it. So let's go ahead, now that we've set the stage for why having high quality market insights is important, we'll jump into the SizeUp tool. So we'll start off with Small Business Insights here. Small Business Insights is our flagship product, and it's a way to get those data points fast and easy. So we're going to start with a couple of things that business owners know. That's their industry and where they're located. So I've got Park City with coffee shops. So we're going to go into this first module right here, business performance, and we're going to see how hyperlocal industry-specific benchmarkings are going to support small businesses. So what are a few things that a small business knows off the top of their head? Well, they know their revenue, right? So maybe I make $1 million in my coffee shop. What SizeUp is doing is it's super crunching millions of data points from the local to the national level to compare my coffee shop against other coffee shops. This is not food and beverage. It's not restaurants. It's not some generic industry. This is specifically coffee shops. And I can see that my coffee shop is making a little bit less than the average coffee shops in the area by tune of like $500,000. So this is a way we can see on the heat map where areas in red are making more money, areas in yellow are making less money. So this is helpful if I want to do like a new coffee shop, or maybe I want to do a marketing campaign, or I can just visit these areas around Silver Summit, Park City, and see why they're doing better than my business. Maybe I want to implement some of their strategies into my business. If I come down now to the next one, year started. Maybe I opened my coffee shop in 2010. What SizeUp is doing now is it's plotted the opening of every single coffee shop in the United States, right? So I can see here that people really love their caffeine after 2021, probably recovering after COVID, as Jeff was mentioning. So if I want to get down to the local market, I can turn off the United States, I can turn off Utah. Now I'm down into the MSA, into the counties, and even down to the city, and I can see when coffee shops opened up in the area. So again, the line is trending up. That means there are new coffee shops replacing old coffee shops, and that's good, right? So we can see there's demand for a coffee shop. Come down a little bit more. Let's say that we pay our employees $40,000 per year. And right off the bat, I can see that I'm actually paying more for my labor than my competition is. And this is important because unless a business is a manufacturer, employee salaries are the biggest expense and impact to the bottom line. And again, I can see on the heat map where salaries are trending higher in the area. So a little higher on this area, excuse me, and up a little bit lower up here around, is that I-80? Yeah, around I-80, head that way. Of course, it's nice to have an average wage, but we want to have specifics when we're talking about jobs. So let's start finding some jobs and understanding their wages. So maybe I want to have a waiter or waitress in my coffee shop. Then maybe I want to have a food, or not food, but a cook. So I have all of these different options to pick from to a short order. And maybe I need a manager to come and manage my coffee shop. And again, we have different options that we can pick from thanks to our quick search. So I got a food services manager. So now I have these three occupations right here, and I can see what a waiter or waitress or a cook or a food services manager. And so when I can see them individually, this allows me to hire people in a specific job category, knowing their specific wage, so I don't have to guess the market. Coming down a little bit more to number of employees, maybe I have 19 people in my coffee shop. And what I can see here is that I'm definitely a small business, but SizeUp is saying that I'm not a small coffee shop. What's big and small is getting turned on its head when you look at it through the lens of data here, right? So this is helpful, right? If we're going to go to a community bank to convince them to give you a line of credit or a small business loan, they may think you're small, but your head count's large. You're actually a bigger player in your market. Okay? To know it more, we have different sorts of data that will be very helpful. Like, for example, employees per capita. This shows where you're likely to be able to find employees in your market. Cost effectiveness, we're triangulating the data that you've entered so far to show, based on the information that we have here, that my business in this case is not performing as well as it could be. And we can visually see over here where coffee shops are performing better. So again, if I want to go and visit coffee shops over in this area where they're a little more efficient, that may be someplace I want to look, or maybe more towards Salt Lake City as compared to my low score. Revenue per capita is another way we can slice and dice the data a few different ways. So over here, I have revenue per capita by zip code, and I've got total revenue by zip code. And I can see a distinct difference here for around here. This zip code over here, their revenue per capita is relatively low, but they have a high total revenue, which tells me that they're spending a lot on coffee, but maybe there's a large population center in this area. So again, depending on what metric I want to go with, I'm able to use that. If I want to take out and zoom out and look at more like a regional level, this will tell me where consumption is happening on the county level. If I keep on going a little farther, I'll get it up at the state level right here. And if I zoom out enough, I'll actually see it at the national level. So if I want to plan to conquer the entire West Coast, I can see there that they love their coffee, and maybe that's a good place to go expand operations more towards the West. Right? If I come down a little bit more to local retention, let's say that our business has to lay off like 10% of our staff, or we have turnover of 10%, and I'm wringing my hands about it. I just feel like it's very frustrating and I can't get ahead. But what I'm seeing here is actually the turnover rate in Summit County is 19%. So what I thought was a weakness is actually a strength. What SizeUp is doing, and I hope you're seeing this through the presentation, is that it's making the invisible obvious for small businesses that with data they can't easily access or afford. That way they can focus on their real challenges and their real opportunities, right? Coming down a little bit more, we get to see again, here's that job market report here. So it shows me that there's been net job loss in restaurant places. So that's what we have categorized for coffee shops. So again, if I'm looking at this, I may say, oh, as a small business owner, I can see the job market softening. Maybe I can pick up that talented cook or that food service manager maybe looking for a job. Or if the labor market is tightening, I see, well, if I need to keep my people, maybe I want to raise my wages. Coming out a little bit more, these are pretty simple to go through. This is basically the cost of a healthcare plan if you want to offer benefits to your employees. So I can see here the state average for a healthcare plan is $7,761. So I can adequately price and shop for those services. For workers' comp insurance, maybe I'm shopping and anticipating it's going to be $1 per $100 of payroll, but I see it's actually the average of 63 cents. So again, I can use this to understand the cost of providing workers' comp insurance for my business. Open hours. Let's say my coffee shop is open 50 hours a week. I just run it as like a mom and pop. Well, I can quickly see here that Park City, the average coffee shop's open 69 hours a week, and in Summit County it's 71, and on and on. You can see from here they just keep going up and up and up. So I come down a little bit more, I'll be able to see that they're open every single day of the week and pretty much open from 7:30 in the morning until about 7 or even 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So we can quickly see that my 50 hours is nowhere near typical for my coffee shop in my area. If I'm going to be competitive, I need to use my resources, my hours, my staff to be in line with the market. But that's how we have to plan. But maybe this will help us in another way. Maybe we can be the only coffee shop open between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. for all those late night skiers coming off the mountain or something like that. Right? But again, it helps you be in line with the market so you can quickly see at a glance what the hours are. This next section is where I can see my digital resources and advertising opportunities. So I can quickly see, for example, that nearly everybody has a website, so I need to have a website. If I come down more to Facebook, I see that Facebook is a very popular advertising platform as well, as is Instagram. Better than 50% of my competition has a Instagram page. LinkedIn, not so much, less than half, down to a quarter or a third at the best. And then coming down a little bit more to X/Twitter. Again, about a third, and then YouTube. Well, that's surprising. Better than half in some cases. So to say, I can use this to inform my advertising plan that I need to advertise on Facebook and Instagram. I need to have a website, and maybe I want to do YouTube, so I can do that really cute coffee art where I pour my cream into my cup and make a little flower or dragon or something like that. So now that I have all this done, and it took me about 10 minutes to do while I was talking and explaining it to you, but I can quickly see now all of my measurables right here, all of the data that I've input, and I don't need an MBA or a data analyst to tell me here that green is more and red is less. And I can quickly see at a glance maybe where I'm overstretching, overcommitted, or underperforming. So for example, on my employees, I have 19, and that's a really high percentile. So that may not be the best thing because in this case, green is not good, right? If we're looking at it through the lens of this data here. When all this is sashed up, all you got to do is hit the little PDF button. It'll turn out a nice report. You can take that report to your loan officer, to your marketing partner, to your investors, to your business partner, whoever the case may be, and you can make decisions based on your data. Moving on to competition here, I'm going to switch careers and become a plumber. Right? So I'm going to be a plumbing contractor now. SizeUp has now mapped all of my competitors here in the market, right? And I'm able to see here, for example, my buddy, the plumbing, heating, and air. I can see where he's located, what his phone number is, and then I even have a little Facebook page here so that I'm able to go and see what he's like with his jobs or his culture, his marketing and advertising communication right there. If I want to then move on to customers, I can see who may be in the single family home building market, right? Maybe I want to be a sub to one of these single family home builders. So now I've got people who are in that single family home building market, even if they're not directly part of the construction, they are, for example, things like all these different buildings groups. So if I want to, for example, reach out to Hibbs Luxury Homes and be a plumber for Hibbs, I can just call them up, offer my value proposition, and go from there. Same thing with the rest of these guys. I can just go down the list and I got phone numbers after phone numbers after phone numbers that I can reach out to and go and see. I can use this as basically a prospect list. Here we go. Sherman Homes. I even got a little Facebook page that allow me to see what he's like as a company. So you can quickly see that we're able to find those potential customers right in our backyard. Now let's talk about getting supplies, because a good plumber needs his copper and his PVC. So if I'm doing plumbing supplies and I'm going to buy things by wholesale, right? No real sense in buying retail. I now have the list of all of the plumbing supply stores in the area, including one right there in Park City. So Standard Plumbing Supply, got their phone number. I can even go on their social media and see what they're offering and then call up and ask for the supplies in the area. Right? And I've got a whole list. Looks like Standard Plumbing and Ferguson Plumbing kind of got the market cornered over there. But again, I can reach out to all these different folks and they'll give me quotes on what I need right there. Right? And you can probably see here that this map is populating. So I'm not just going to have the opportunity to see my market here in Park City and in Summit County. If I want to start doing jobs down in Salt Lake City, or if I want to keep on going all points south, down into southern Utah, or go up more towards I'm used to know my geography, Harrisville and Riverdale. I can go all along Interstate 15 and find all the potential customers and competitors in the market. And truly, I can actually zoom out and look at the national landscape. So if I'm looking to open up maybe a regional or multi-state plumbing company, then I can look and see what the opportunities are across the country. But let's zoom back into the local level. I want to kind of get back right here to center. So if we're right here in the crossroads here, and I want to understand consumer spending, because we've been looking at a business to business type of interaction for my demonstration here. But let's talk about consumer spending. I will have all of these different spending categories that I can go through and find the consumer expenditure aligns with my business. So in this case, I can come down to shelter, and I can go to repairs and maintenance, and I can go to plumbing. What you're going to see very quickly is that I'm now able to see the information on the block group levels. This is going to look at census blocks. So I can see here for Park City, it's split between 2 or 3 different census blocks. I can see all the homes that are in this area, but I can quickly see where I should put my advertising efforts. So like for here, around Bald Mountain, Deer Valley Resort, they're spending a lot on plumbing as opposed to up here around Utah Olympic Park. They're a little bit more modest, but also around here in the mountain areas around the lake, this area right here, they're spending a lot on plumbing. So if I'm thinking about how I want to approach my market, I'm able to do that. And as we zoom out, we'll be able to see the zip code level, and then we'll be able to get out into the county level here in a little bit. There we go. So this area is spending a lot on plumbing. This area is spending a lot on plumbing. Again, you can use this information so you can plan your advertising campaign. And again, there's the PDF button. I will say the PDF in this case does not do justice to the magic in the map. So I encourage you, if you're going to use this tool, use the map. This is for reference only. Let's move on to advertising. In advertising, I'm able to see my market and understand who my market is. So I've got a default set to 10 miles with no characteristics set here. So I've got a blank slate. So with my blank slate, I'm going to say, you know what? Time to change careers again. I'm going to go to dental. All right, I'm a dentist now in Park City, and maybe I specialize in pediatrics, right? I have the flat panels on the ceiling. I've got the noise canceling headphones, and I use nitrous oxide instead of needles. And so all of this is a good value proposition that I think people would be willing to drive for. So I'm going to start analyzing my market and say, you know what? Maybe I want to go out about 20, 21 miles to be able to get the edge of Salt Lake City and maybe try to capture some of that business. So as we're looking at zip codes here, we have the total revenue in the market, but I also can select revenue per capita, underserved markets, average revenue, total employees, and household income. So for example, if I want to target household income as my key driver, I now have my map set here for the 21-mile radius, but I want to have a unique value proposition, right? I want to target people who make at least $100,000. And because I have that special pediatric focus with the TVs on the ceiling and the noise canceling headphones and the nitrous oxide, I say, you know what, kids will dig that. So I want to get the median age down to around 35. So that way I know who has kids in the household or most likely to have kids in the household. So here we go. I got, in this case, Alpine 84004. They match my household income and they match my age requirement, and then American Fork, and then Salt Lake City here on these. So if I'm looking at doing an advertising campaign, I say, you know what? If I'm here in Park City, maybe I can entice people to come to my special dentistry lab because they are right on the periphery of my advertising area, and I'll be able to do that. So that is how you can use the advertising tool. It basically allows you to get away from the mass marketing of sending flyers to every single household in the community, right? We don't want people wasting money on these inefficient means of marketing. Let's use the information at our fingertips to make smarter advertising decisions. Okay. All right, moving on then to demographics here. A demographics report is a great way to put my business at the center of the world. And I can review the data sets in a few different ways. I can do a demographic overview, I can look at consumer expenditures, and I can look at the labor force. And I'll browse between these data sets for a few different points here. And how I can do that is either go by a place, which allows me to look at the city, the county, or the metro area. I can search by drawing a boundary, or I can search by an address. So let's talk about the demographics in Park City, right? I can quickly look and see here, for example, that if I'm a childcare service provider. I operate a daycare. It would be wonderful to know where all the 0 to 4-year-olds are located in the community. And I can see here that right here downtown, this is the most likely and densest place for 0 to 4-year-olds. If I'm thinking about advertising my daycare in local to Park City, then here's the best place. But of course, I can zoom out and look and see that 0 to 4-year-olds are also hiding around here. And so I may want to go and look at that area, right? And I can do that again based on the city of my location. But let's say though that I want to search based on my address. If I want to look for my address and look at consumer expenditures, maybe I'm running a steakhouse out of City Hall or county offices here. I'm going to pick on Main Street here for a split second. So we'll put in the office here on Colville. There we go. You're up here now in Colville. We're going to switch off. We're going to stop picking on Park City for a little bit. So now I've got Colville up here, and I'm able to see, I'm going to turn that off here, my 10-mile ring with all of my different consumer expenditures up here. But if I want to do a drive time of my area, maybe people are willing to drive 20 minutes to come to my restaurant, then it's going to show me what a 20-minute drive from my location is. It's very narrow. You guys are kind of wedged in the mountain there. But if I come down a little bit and start looking for example, let's pick on something here. Food, perfect. Full service restaurants. Turn that on. I can see that people spend $24 million for my full service restaurant services. And if I come all the way down in here, I can see where people are spending more or less on my on that service. And so I can see here within a 20-minute drive that this area down here in the East Basin, Rancho Lula Lobos, this area right here, Silver Summit, that place is spending more money on restaurants than the surrounding area. So I will be able to advertise in that place there. Right? So again, this is a great way to understand your market with a drop down. Maybe I'll do a labor force. Let's do labor force here. Labor force, if I want to go back to, and I'll just type in a random place here. Let's go back to Park City a little bit here. Okay, so now I've got a 20-minute drive time for my labor force. And again, I can see things like total establishments by size. If I want to target, for example, very small businesses for my business opportunity, I can see that. Or if I want to target employees and maybe try to advertise my open positions to, let's do food prep. Go back to that restaurant example. I can see here that food prep folks, employees live mostly in this area, and there's 2,000 of them within my drive time. So that would be a good place I want to advertise my open positions here. Again, this is a great way to be able to understand the data in your backyard so that way you can identify your market and your opportunity. Right? So demographics, great way to understand your world and interact without it. We can do an advertising analysis to optimize our marketing efforts. We can look at our competitive landscape to find those customers, competitors, and suppliers. And we've got our business performance metrics here so I can see how I size up compared to my competition. Now, this data that I've shown you, businesses, they could not access this on their own. Or if they did, it would cost them thousands of dollars or take hours, if not days, of their life to be able to find this. And even if they could find the data, they would not have the training, the time, the insight to interpret it without the help of some kind of consultant going through that data. But no small business can afford to hire McKinsey, right? This is where SizeUp comes in. They can easily understand the information through this easy interactive display that is designed specifically for small business audiences. Let's move on to the next product that Summit County has here, and this is a small business advisor. This helps businesses across their entire life cycle by offering technical assistance, education, and knowledge they can apply at every stage of their business. So I can plan, start, manage, and grow my business with the help of SizeUp. So let's say that I want to plan a business. Think about opening up a business here, and I want to do an Italian restaurant right there in Park City. So I now have topics here that are related to planning my business here. But I've also got these indicators here that tell me that SizeUp's data is inside these components, right? So if I want to go to market research, what we've done is we've curated some of the best videos we could find from sources like PBS or the Wharton School of Business or Harvard, and we're able to plug them into this program. We also have little nuggets, so that way busy, on-the-go small business owners can look at these and have easily digestible nuggets of information. But if I come down to competitors, for example, and click that, it's going to show me all the Italian restaurants that are in the market. And again, I can zoom out and start seeing that on a regional level. So if I think about opening up my satellite location in Salt Lake City, or maybe going up into Colville and having the only Italian restaurant in the area, then I can do that. If I come down a little bit more, I can say, oh, I need to see if I can make $5 million as an Italian restaurant purveyor. And I can quickly see that the average for a probably well-established Italian restaurant is $3.5 million, right? And so if we're thinking about putting together a business plan and we think $5 million is a achievable goal, well, that'd be the wrong assumption, right? That might put someone out of business before they even set foot on their journey. So this data is actually designed to prevent business failure through data-driven planning. Okay? Let's give another example inside of this. Let's say we want to manage our business, right? Here, you're a mature business. You want to understand how you can approach topics like, for example, legal services. In this case, SizeUp has created a video on this topic because we couldn't find an outside source that satisfied us. So we created a little video about legal services. And we have now the listing of attorneys that actually specialize in corporate partnership and business law. And so Robert Youngberg there in Park City would be happy to set you up with a contract, get your LLC put together, whatever the case may be. But of course, we also have other attorneys that are outside the market. But hey, why leave the community when you got two good lawyers right here in your backyard, including Bowman Carter Law, who has a Facebook page we can go and look at. Right? So this is a great way you can identify resources in SizeUp as well. And maybe you just want to type for or go explore for different topics. Maybe we want to search for topics related to employees, right? So I type employee, and now I've got a list of topics that are related to employees. So if I want to understand, for example, staff performance, I now have a video right here where I can use these resources here that allow me to understand how to measure staff performance. And then another way you can go down the rabbit hole is literally go down the rabbit hole. We've got topics here on the macro level. So if you want to understand technology, and then maybe you want to look at website traffic, we're going to again give you a video to explain that concept to you, nuggets of wisdom. And then here's all of my digital resources. So I can go back in here and see if Corner Cafe should advertise on Facebook. And again, I can see here that that's a good platform they may want to advertise on. Right? So overall, this gives us a better understanding of how businesses can find resources and learn about topics they may not know otherwise. The last program that Summit County has is called Shop Local. Now, Shop Local allows a consumer, and I need to emphasize this, this program is for consumers. So if the cities in Summit County wanted to promote their locally owned businesses, they can certainly do that. So I'm going to go back to Park City just because I know that area, and we'll look at restaurants. Right? So when we have now our locally owned restaurants right here in the backyard, and I truly mean locally owned, they are operated, headquartered right there in Park City. So again, you can see all these local restaurants. You know what you don't see? You don't see Burger King, you don't see McDonald's, you don't see any of the other corporate chains. These are all owned and operated by local business or local business owners. And so this is a great way for, in this case, Park City, if they wanted to come in and say, hey, advertise, or excuse me, promote your businesses here on Shop Local. So for example, I want to look at Tupelo Park City, for example. I've got their address, their phone number. I even have a button that will give me directions on Google Map to be able to go to this place if I'm standing in the middle of Park City. Or I can call them up, or I can visit their website and I can look at their menu and understand if that's someplace that I want to go. right? So again, this is a great way that the cities, the county can support locally owned businesses. Research shows that people want to support local businesses. They want to patron these places that give their community flavor. They want to support their neighbors. So it's a great way to do that. So this is the last product that we have here. So again, shop and eat local, great way to support your locally owned businesses that are owned by people in your community. Small Business Advisor, an education platform that allows your businesses to educate themselves on how they can operate their business. And then Small Business Insights, all of the data that a consulting firm would have at their disposal. Now all the small businesses have it right here in an easy to use interface. So I've taken you through all of our products here. They each have a little bit of a different value proposition. So if we want to talk through them, I'm happy to take questions, revisit features. But before I do that, let me tell you that there is a way that your small business owners in your community can actually get training directly from SizeUp to know how to use this, right? Jeff and Maddie are only two people, and I don't want them always having to be burdened with doing a training class. So on Wednesdays, every single Wednesday, I teach a class, and you can access it by clicking this button right here. So I have it pulled up. All you have to do is come into this Zoom webinar registration, come on down, pick the day that's best for you. So in this case, June 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm on the East Coast, but that would be 11 a.m., I believe, for you guys. You will be able to, or noon, I'm sorry, it's noon for you guys. You're 2 hours back. So noon for you guys every noon. So you can do like a lunch and learn with your small business owners. Register for it, sign up for it, and I will teach you how to use SizeUp. Okay. All right. I will take a breath. I'll take a beat. I'll take a sip of water, and let me turn it over to you guys. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I was wondering, for a tool like SizeUp, how does it account for seasonality in Park City and Summit County with numbers of businesses or, revenue and things like that? We know one of the things up here is that a lot of our businesses tell us that they essentially make all their money for the whole year in about 4 months.
Right. All right. No, you're absolutely right. You are a very seasonal city. You probably make your money between like what, November and February, basically. So what we have to kind of account for here is that the data that we see inside here is annualized, right? So a restaurant, for example, the $3.38 million is considered across an entire season. So, or not season, but an entire year. So we don't have the ability to go and look at seasonally adjusted revenue. That's not something that we have here. So that's one of the limitations. We are looking at an annualized data set. Any other questions?
Where does SizeUp pull their data from to build the programming?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I actually have a slide in my deck that will explain this. So let me pull my slide back up here. So the truth is that we have hundreds of data sources. We don't rely on just one data source to compile all of our data. And I'll give you a glimpse inside of where we get that information from. So if we're talking about public resources, data sets, we'll have this tranche of information right here. Commercial data providers, the Patent Office, HUD, Internal Revenue Service, Bureau of Labor Statistics, all those publicly available resources. We will pull that data. And depending on the data source, we're able to incorporate that on a quarterly basis typically. But we have other places we get data from. We scrape from Google Maps. We have the professional licensing boards. We got annual reports from publicly traded companies. We have proprietary data vendors that we partner with that help bolster our data as well. And so we combine all of those different data sources together, and we run them through our patented technology to be able to filter out the noise and find what's true in the data so that we're able to deliver accurate information. So that's why I say whenever the young lady who asked about revenue insights, whether it's seasonal versus annual, a lot of our data is collected based on that annual basis or quarterly basis. So we're going to have a lot of data that kind of fits in that same that annual time frame from there. But to answer your question, this is where we get our data from. Hundreds of reports, hundreds of sources, all coming from different parts of the public and private domains. Any other questions?
I have one, JR. Your export is for most of the time were like PDF outputs. Do you also export some of your numerical data in Excel files or CSV files or?
No, we limit it to PDFs. So every one of these are going to have a PDF button in the corner
Okay.
here. So you can see them right here. Whoops. Oh, our Java plugin is uh-oh. I need to find out what's going on there. That Java plugin for let's go back here. Is it in their demographics? Uh-oh, demographics. I wonder if what's going on. I'll have to go and find out what's going on for that one. It was working while we were doing the demo. Well, anyway, to answer your question, they're all in PDF output. So I'll give an example of one that I filled in from the data that we had earlier. So all of this information will come out in a PDF, and there will be some insights that are in here. So for example, it will say, like, you're showing us you're making $1 million. You're in the 11th percentile in the nation. Your business revenue is greater than or equal to 4%, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll have those numbers in there. I'll tell you what a few clients actually do with this. I got a great example down in Texas. They actually take all of the PDFs that are produced in SizeUp here. So they'll take the demographic report, the competition report, the advertising report, and they'll create their PDFs out of it. And they'll actually run it through an AI large language model. And they designed it to where the agent that's in that AI model will give them essentially a consulting role. And so they'll spit it out and say, oh, based on the numbers that you entered through your SizeUp reports, we recommend you do this for advertising or this for community outreach or target these particular companies so that way you can do that. So while we don't have the raw data of like an Excel file or something you can plug into like Blackbaud or something like that, or Power BI, that's one way that people can take our data and use it to gain additional insights.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome to get them for the guys.
Any other questions?
Yeah, get them. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
No? All right.
Jeff,
I will then
I have
stop.
I have a
And
question for you, Jeff, or
Sure.
JR. Hey, so Jeff, a lot of the data that we get from you comes from the cell phone data, and it's kind of unique based on our area with people,
From
a lot of people
Placer.
traveling in. Yeah, the Placer app. A lot of people that travel in from, outside of Summit County because they can't afford to live in Summit County to work and things like that. Does this take that stuff into account as well? Is this pretty accurate data as far
It's
as the
different
uniqueness
data.
of Summit
It's
County goes?
you're going to see similar trends between the data. Okay, so if I were to look at number of employees that were coming in on Placer through the cell phone app, and then look at the number of employees that are in the SizeUp application, or if we, same thing, if I compare our Lightcast developer number on employees, all of them are going to show very similar trends,
let me
but
add
they're
a little
used for
flavor.
different purposes.
Yeah, I'll add a little flavor to what Jeff is saying. So, for example, consumer expenditures. What we're able to capture here is the sales data from the point of origin, right? So we capture that data by, for example, credit cards. They're registered to a specific zip code, right? Because you want to make sure you know where you're spending your money and who owns the credit card and all that kind of stuff. So, for example, that example of shelter, or you know what, I'll do something a little different. I'll show you another way you can use this tool. So let's say that I want to understand groceries, right? Or grocery total expenditures. And I want to understand like maybe meat, maybe a meat butcher in the market. What's this going to tell me is that the point of sale here in this area is much more concentrated than this area up here because these people are buying their supplies, right? The restaurants are buying their supplies and et cetera, et cetera. But if you zoom out a little bit more, you're also going to see the residential areas that are spending, in this case, a lot more on, let's just do beef, here, for example. So if I'm a beef provider in the area and I say, you know, when I drive a truck up to the Trailside Park, the East Basin, this interchange right here, then my data will tell me that people who are purchasing beef are more concentrated, spending more in this area than in this area, because that's where the point of the sale is happening, right? As a fixed point, right? If that makes sense for it. So we're not going to have, as Jeff mentioned, the placer AI where you're doing a geofencing around an area, but we are taking real world statistics and data and putting them into a very easy to use and understand mapping system.
So I would also like to follow up that we're looking for feedback from all of our partners. And the way we gather that feedback is for everybody to use the application. And I would encourage you all to use the application, even if you struggle with the application. You know, ask questions, write down your questions, attend JR's training, or send those questions to Maddie and I, and we will help you get an answer to those questions, because none of this data, none of these platforms do anybody any good if they just stay in a cave and people don't use them. So, you know, it's really important that people give them a try and work their way through, and then grasp, like, you know, they're able then to determine what the value of the application is. But thanks, JR, for like taking so much information and compressing it into such a tight time frame.
You're welcome.
You'll also find in your email, you probably just received an email from Maddie that has a toolkit that you can take away from this. And we would also like to invite this group to attend our official launch party, and we'll be sending out more information about that as we move forward. Maddie, do you have any other items you would like to
No, I think that's it.
contribute?
Yeah. You'll have my email now from what I just sent out. And if you have any questions or feedback, please let us know.
Great. Thanks all.
Thank you very much.
This from the wrong year.